Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with Travis. Let's jump back into it.
Two things are coming up for me. One, the saying, every master was once a disaster. And that all of us start somewhere. So if any of the listeners are saying, but I don't want to mess up, it's like we need to start somewhere. Just like you said, it wasn't my perfect conversation, but you still had it.
Yeah.
And you had the courage. And you got better. And now you're even teaching this stuff. Another thing, what helped you to have the courage to have the conversation? Because a lot of people say, I know I need to have that conversation, but they keep delaying that.
Yeah. It's funny because my answer, if someone said that to me, I would probably go, well, you could just never have it and you could just live in pain forever.
Yeah, that's a good one.
If you can just do that. That's fine. If that's what you want to do, have a great time. Right? So I just try to make things super casual, a little bit more fun, for lack of a better term, because when someone wants to have a difficult conversation, they're not having any fun. So if I can get somebody to relax a little bit, just even when they're thinking about it, I find that helps significantly. But one thing that I very intentionally have them do is I have them schedule something for after the conversation so they can remind themselves, not so much consciously, but more so subconsciously, that they are not going to die. Which I feel like, it does sound very, very aggressive, but for anyone listening that's had like the first difficult conversation ever, you're not thinking about what you're having for dinner that night. You're like, I might collapse. Yeah. So I will have them schedule something that's just joyous, even if it's something really, really simple, for very soon after the conversation. So whether that be, hey, go out to your favorite restaurant for lunch, or I don't know, have some chocolate, go for a walk, like whatever the thing is, make that a big deal, put it on your calendar so that you can constantly say, I will survive this conversation. I will get to the other side, and then I get to do this awesome thing that I love. Usually it's like a lunch thing, right? Oh, I'm going to go get steak and eggs for lunch. I don't know, whatever. Right? So it gets them past the conversation instead of their life ending at the conversation. So I always make sure people put that kind of thing on their calendar.
Yeah. I'm going to get some Taco Bell after all our podcast recordings now to
Now
celebrate. Travis, would you be willing to role play or just talk us through a couple of scenarios?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I actually want to go through that. Let's go through that example. Let's say you're my manager. I'm a high performer. I'm that high performer. I'm bringing in lots of revenue, but I'm also, let's say for this example here, I'm like discriminatory and rude towards a lot of the female members of our team. Right. I'm creating a hostile work environment. I'm either interrupting them or saying derogatory things during team meetings, either about them or at them.
Yeah.
So how would you approach that conversation with me?
I would still approach it from a very curious standpoint. Even if I've already more or less been like, I don't like the way you're talking to people, like this is not good, I still need to figure out what's causing that to occur. Because what I've found in those scenarios is that sometimes people are completely unaware that they're doing it. And sometimes they are aware that they're doing it, but they have been taught that it's fine. So it really varies quite a bit, but I still would always start the conversation from a place of, hey, you're doing great with results, XYZ, whatever. I noticed that when you were talking to so-and-so the other day, you said this. What made you say that?
I mean, I'm just making a joke. This is, not a big deal.
What was the joke about to you?
Yeah, I think it's just playing in the stereotypes, just playing the stereotypes about women and their places in the kitchen, Don't mean anything by it,
Got it. So in the past, I assume then that when you've made those kind of jokes in like a work environment, they haven't been an issue before.
Nobody's ever said anything, or they either laugh. People usually laugh about it.
Yeah. What if their laughing is actually like a sense of discomfort?
I don't know. Like, why wouldn't they say anything to me? Like, nobody's ever said anything to me about it.
Okay. So would you say that you're open to approaching that in a different manner? Or is that like, I just think that's funny and that's who I am?
I mean, we could talk about it, but come on. It's not a big deal.
So what would you say if I told you that I was upset about it or other people on the team were upset about it? Like, how would you actually feel about that, knowing that the joke caused some sort of reaction?
I mean, are you upset by it?
Well, how do you feel about it?
I'm asking you if you're upset by it. You
Yeah.
said, like, what if I was upset? Are you upset by it?
Yeah, just hypothetically speaking.
I mean, I would say, chill out. Dude. We're just joking. We're just trying to have some lightness, right? Like, it was work. It's not
Yeah.
our whole life. So
So, in general, doesn't sound like something that open to changing. And it's okay if you're not. It's not a big deal.
I don't know. I guess I'd have to see a really good reason why I need to change it.
Yeah.
Right? It's
So,
not hurting anybody.
yeah. So, like, what could you give me an example of what that reason would be, just so I have a better understanding?
I mean, I guess if everybody was like really upset by it, or like I was actively making people cry, like that'd be like I'm certainly trying to not to make people cry.
Yeah. So it doesn't sound like you're trying to like intentionally upset somebody, right?
Yeah.
I'm not getting that vibe
Right.
at all.
Right.
Okay. So great. Then we can just work on it moving forward. Not a big deal. We can talk about different ways to say it, different jokes to make. Sounds pretty straightforward to me.
I guess I don't know, man. It's not that big of a deal.
So if we got to this point in the conversation and you were actually that, for lack of a better term, like defensive about it, I'd probably start going a different way and be like, okay, this person is not understanding
Yeah.
what's going on, or,
Right.
and to me, I would probably have the conversation again. I'd give it like a little bit of a break, and then have that I'd let them sit with that idea that people might not be happy about that. And then I would approach that again. And if they had the same kind of reaction, I most likely would let them go.
I love that. I appreciate your approach of asking. You like asked a lot of questions. Like, I think that was kind of cool to like really dive deep into, like, without actively asking, am I trying to hurt people's feelings? You essentially teased out, is this something where I'm purposely like don't think women are appropriate?
Yep.
Or is it me just being, just joking around or whatever, but you don't really know? And without actively explicitly implying that, you were still able to tease it out.
And that's where I just try to operate from the assumption that I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I make an assumption, if I say the wrong thing, it's very easy for someone to go, well, that's not what I said. Right. And then that can cause, now we have a whole different problem that I created.
Right.
So I really try to think, I have no idea where this is coming from. I don't know enough about this person. I don't want to make an assumption about them. I'm just going to keep asking questions until I go, I'm pretty sure it's that. And then I would consider calling it out.
No, I think you're right. I think there was I was still defensive, but I wasn't defensive to the point where I wasn't giving you information. I was still telling you information and what you needed to know. Even though I didn't see a problem with it, I was still telling you like really important information about that would help you guide the conversation. So I think that's a really great way to stick with the questions, even when it feels like there's nowhere else to go, but you still stuck with it. And I think it's great to like really tease it out.
And it really, for anyone listening, you can't just like do that. You have to actually be curious, right? If you're not actually curious and you try to do that, it is not going to go well whatsoever. So your tonality has to be correct. Your pace has to be correct. How you're asking the questions needs to be pretty spot on. Like we're not asking why questions or when. Like it's just what and how. That's it. Because those are going to really get people to open up, or we're repeating back what the person said to get some clarity. Like you have to actually care. You can't just wing it.
What's coming up for me, even there's an art of asking those questions. And for somebody listening that says, I have no idea what kind of questions to ask, what would you tell them? What might be first step for them?
I give them usually 3 frameworks to work from. So the first one, if you're really terrible at asking questions, is to not ask any. And do more of a tell me more about whatever they just said. Hey, I made this joke about a woman. Well, could you tell me more about the joke that you made? They're just naturally going to kind of start to elaborate, right? So if you're not sure what to ask, you don't have to ask anything. Just tell them, just ask them, just tell them, tell me more about that. Right, that one works really, really well. The second place I'll have people go is sticking to what and how questions, removing why from their vocabulary. I pretty much tell someone the only reason you can ask a why question is if you're actually trying to boost someone's confidence. So meaning something like, normally you do this really amazing thing. Why did you change tactics this time? Because you're accusing them of something great. But when why questions don't work is pretty much any other scenario, in my opinion, because it gets people to be defensive. They feel accused of things. The tonality is really hard to get right. Even if you sound really curious, it can still feel like an interrogation. So getting people to ask what and how questions explicitly is extremely helpful. And then the third thing I'll have them do is more of a repeat back what they just said. So last 3 or 4 words of whatever the person said with like an upward inflection. And you could do that for 30 to 60 minutes and the other person would never notice. And it always gets them to elaborate because what you're expressing back is what you just said isn't clear. I need you to try again because I don't get it. And that's a great way for people to just continue to open up.
You know where I've seen why questions also work is if you're asking about an external person or process. And then that's also because you're not asking about them. You're asking like, why do you think that person did that thing?
Yeah, I agree with that with the caveat that it could cause them to accuse someone else of something.
True.
Right?
True.
Right. So if we were in that situation and you said, why do I think so-and-so did that? I could really easily make an assumption about that person's mindset or thought process behind that. I would probably change that question to something like, what do you think caused so-and-so to do X, Y, and Z? Because you're going to get a very, very different answer. Oh, well, that's part of the process, or that's how they were trained, or blah, blah, blah. Right? But when you ask the why question, it just opens up the possibility for someone to say, I just think they didn't care, or like a version of their motivation when what caused or how did that happen kind of thing. Usually you don't default to someone's motivation or lack thereof. From what I've seen.
Yeah.
Sounds like it almost removes the blame or the emotion out of it.
Yeah. Agreed.
When talking about emotion, what might be a strategy to help a leader, let's say if they're in that anger or frustration, like, what were you thinking? Maybe they use the what question, but it comes out in that frustrated tone.
Yeah. I try to teach people to hang out with silence a lot more than they're comfortable with. So if I know a leader has a problem with overreacting, right, all the question stuff we already talked about, being curious, etc., but I will make them pause for way longer than they're comfortable, which is like 5 seconds. It's really not that long, but it feels like a lifetime. And the technique I will tell them is like, you need to count to 5 in your head, and you cannot speak until you count to 5. For them, it feels like 50 minutes, but it's really not that long at all. Most people are very uncomfortable with silence, but silence is really just a place where people process things. So if we never give ourselves the space to process something, our response is going to suck, regardless of the situation or the context. So if I know that they have a reaction tendency, I'll have them pause, which sounds like an oversimplification, but it is highly effective just to get someone to be like, wait, like, I'll take a breath. Maybe I should be curious about this instead of punching this person in the face with my words.
That happens so often, right? People go into these conversations not realizing they're not trying to solve a problem. They just wanted to vent at somebody or at the other person and express some kind of frustration. Yeah.
And even that itself, sometimes I'll see leaders try to solve a problem that the other person actually doesn't want to be solved, or that they don't need the leader to solve for them. So a lot of the problems that come with that kind of miscommunication is the leader not recognizing what they need, what the employee needs in that particular situation. So if I see that happening on a consistent basis where a teammate is bringing something to the leader over and over again, I'll have the leader ask something to the effect of, are you bringing this to me to vet, for me to brainstorm solutions, or like you're actually feeling stuck? Where are you at? Yeah. Because based on those, you're going to need to wear a different hat, right? If they're coming to you to vent, but you're just like, hey, this is what you should do to solve the problem, you're actually creating another problem.
Yep.
So you have to have the right context going into that conversation if that's a problem that is coming up often.
How easy or hard is it, have you found, for leaders to add that extra step before they respond, and and slowing down and thinking about what the purpose of that is?
I find that it's actually pretty straightforward. It feels really overwhelming and daunting, but it's one of those things where if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So it's very easy to forget to not do something. So I'll have them put a Post-it on their computer, whatever the thing is, put a reminder on their phone where it just constantly comes up of like, hey, remember to pause, remember to pause, remember to pause. So that we can just start drilling that into their subconscious. Because a lot of the stuff around communication, there's just so many things to do that it's really easy to forget. So some sort of visual reminder somewhere is where I start someone. And if they do that on a consistent basis, I find that they can actually change their communication style within a couple of weeks. It's not that hard. You just need someone to bring the awareness to it, someone to listen to a conversation, give you some feedback and say, hey, next time, say this instead. Just do that, and you'll have a massive difference in this conversation.
I work with a CEO that did the same thing. He put a Post-it note, but it wasn't necessarily to slow down his conversation, but it was whenever an email came in asking him for information or to do something, it was a reminder, send that email to the right person who should be doing this job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the classic delegation problem.
There's also another classic problem. We talked about feedback. It's more either across or managing down. What about feedback up, managing up?
Yeah.
That can be very tricky.
It can be very tricky for a multitude of reasons. And where I just want to be cautious with my advice is it depends on the culture of your company. Because there's certainly situations where if your culture is not built to manage up, for lack of a better term, it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
And like find another job kind of thing. If the culture is there, the goal is to continue to ask what or how questions, especially if you're having struggles with your boss. Because a lot of the times a simple, hey, you told me to do X, Y, and Z. How would you like me to go about that based on these factors? These other things that you may not see. We're not telling them the you may not see part, but bringing up other factors to make sure that they're aware that those are actually constraints that may have not been considered. So you want to assume that your boss has considered certain angles, in my opinion, when you go to when you go to manage up, because you're subtly telling them about things without being extremely direct. Then you can get responses like, oh, I didn't know that was a problem. I didn't know that was a constraint. I didn't know that was actually a factor when we were making this decision. So what I just said actually doesn't make any sense anymore. Again, heavily dependent on the culture. You have to assume that if your boss is telling you to do something, they might not know why they're telling you that. They might have been told by, CEO, whoever, hey, you got to go fix this number. You got to go fix this thing. And then they just tell the team, right? So your boss might be under a tremendous amount of pressure that you're completely unaware of that is directly affecting the communication between you two. So getting even curious about what's making your boss say the things to you that they're saying can be very helpful. Yeah. Hey, I noticed that this seemed like a very sudden change from last week, last quarter. Could you tell me a little bit more about this so I have a better understanding? That can go a really long way because most people don't usually try to go to understand the boss. And that can just like everybody's human. Everyone's trying to do their best. So like we need to do that with our bosses as well, even if sometimes they are a nightmare.
Travis, let's assume some listener out there decided to skip the entire first half of this episode. They said, you know what? I don't need to listen to part 1. I only want to listen to part 2 of my life. And let's say they turned on this episode and they fast forwarded to this exact point in the episode. Other than, hey, you should go back and listen to the rest of this episode. What are you doing here? What are 1 to 2 big takeaways you would have for people listening to this?
Assume that you're a terrible listener, without a doubt, and ask those around you how you can be a better person. Specifically, something to the effect of, what's one blind spot you think I have in my life that I am unaware of? That if I did address, would really level me up as a person.
And I will expand that one. I think everybody should be asking that question to the people that see and love them the most. So their family, your partners, best friends. I think that's a great question for anybody to like do some self-reflection and do that internal work on how do I be a better person in general.
And I think what's just beautiful about it, it takes about, I don't know, 10 seconds. It's nothing crazy, but it is obnoxiously powerful if you have the ability to listen to what they say without getting defensive. That can be a life-changing conversation, and you could have it with 5 different people in the next 24 hours.
Love that. Travis, let's say somebody's listening and they're like, I got to get this guy Travis to help me. Like, I'm floundering. I can't figure this out. How can the people get in touch with you, read up on you, follow you, get in contact with you?
I'm unavailable. No, just kidding. The easiest place to follow me is on Instagram. I post there every single day. My handle is Trav Dalrymple. You can look it up. You'll find me.
We'll link that. Yeah.
And people can message me there, and I'm pretty quick to respond. But best place would be just read the book. The book is like the culmination of a decade of leadership stuff, simplified down into something that's actually short, enjoyable, fun to read. It's not a snooze fest like most leadership books, and it's not full of heavy jargon or technical crap. It really sounds like 2 people chatting over a beer, in my opinion, talking about leadership.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And we'll link the book also. And if anybody can find the review I put on Amazon or about it, bonus points to you. That's awesome. We'll link all that. Travis, Lucie, what do you got going on for the people?
So once people do the challenge that Travis suggested, and they ask the 5 people, and they want to know even more about themselves and what else could be their blind spot, they could take an assessment on my website, mindfitter.com/befree. And then you'll discover maybe possible blind spots and something else that you can do to communicate better, live better, and have better relationships with people and be more effective leader. What about you, Chris?
One of the things, one of my goals this year is to win the lottery. So if somebody knows the winning numbers to the Powerball or Mega Millions, I would love just like a hint or some support around winning. I want to make sure I win that this year. I think it'd be really nice just to have a goal. So, but Travis, thank you so much for being here. Loved your advice. I love how concrete and simple it was for people to follow. It was, like you said, it's not jargon. It's not abstract theory. This is how you can specifically do this to make things better. Yeah. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for being on our show today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's been a great chat.
Thank you, Travis.